to try to figure out what really Diosa means to me. I'm an artist, and for years I have done images of women, goddesses, the struggle of women, but it's still in my mind. Why do I do it? Why? Ada, this is Brian Medina.
Hi, Brian.
Nice
to meet you.
Bellini. Brown. Professor. Well, why don't we go with these three, and then we'll not go on that one.
Okay. I was one of the first people to ever show here.
Exactly. I know. One of my visions for the show is really to show the many faces of the goddess, and that's the struggle, the life, the death, all in one image.
Coming up, the celebration.
Yeah, this is
Diosa.
show, La Diosa. This is the
I'm looking
show.
forward to this.
Good.
This is great.
Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, we got the invitation. This is wonderful.
Good,
We're gonna
good.
see.
I selected artists that loved women, respected women, and saw woman as a subject, not as an object. The woman as sensual, but not necessarily sexual, but yes, erotic. And so these are the artists that I selected. Ada Brown is here, masked, and that's unmasked. You can see her classical training in her painting, and I see her goddess as herself as women. We women are goddesses, and just in our regular everyday selves. And we don't need a mask. This is Brian Medina, he's the youngest. I think he's 24.
I am very consciously aware of the goddess. She appears in a lot of my work, my body of work that I've done and that I continue to do.
He explored the goddess as excess.
I focus on the goddess and based on spirituality, myth, and in modern day reality. And she's always been a part of my work, and I believe she will continue to be a part of my work in the future.
The concept of La Diosa was not an easy one for me to start with. It was difficult because I thought possibly my background, I was raised by a father, there was no mother in my life, and women in some ways have been a mystery to me, believe it or not.
This is Linda Ariola, very angular, but I see that to me it's very spiritual, her work, because she deals with grids and the mandala. And ancient peoples and people study the mandala to focus and to sort of go into another zone, in a spiritual sense, and that's what her work does.
The interesting thing to me was the duality of the female. I thought that there's the image of woman as goddess, which was sort of pure and virginal and sacred, and then there's also the woman as sort of seductress or prostitute, or somehow I connected it to actually the male drive for the female. I sort of thought, pornography and suggestive commercialism that I see, and it seemed like a real split in many ways.
Alexander Suriano, everything he does is about the goddess, at least for the last 10 years.
I work on the stuff all the time. I have a lot of interest in the goddess subject.
He really tries to get to the simplicity of an image.
I've always been interested in ancient cultures, and I've always just looked around and researched and read and watched.
It's contemporary, but as he says it's ancient underpinnings. That's the vocabulary he uses.
I think it was something of the past that was really, people really believed in. I think that's where everything that I do goes to, is to the past, to the old days, the ancient days.
John Miner, these are all on metal pieces, and he's a teacher. He's a very young man who teaches at PCC silk screening.
As far as the women are portraying my work being goddesses, they're goddesses as well as more sort of a comic book character to me. I sit there as just a young straight male artist. I could sit on a bench and just, when I look at women in general, each woman to me is their own character.
His background is really street signs for bands, the kinds that you put on poles and around town. And so he's really got roots with the kids. This is Jorge Secret's work.
My work is basically metaphysical, so I often have to deal with issues that have to do with metaphysics and creation myths and things like that. And of course, the goddess is always the principle in that. Whether it's, through Catholicism or pre-Columbian mythology or the classics or anything. And they reverberate. There's all sorts of, in all these cases, the archetype comes through in every case, and they're just manifestations of the same archetype. Such that Inanna is the same thing as Isis, is the same thing as the Virgin Mary, and it goes down to us along those lines.
I have always been fascinated with Coatlicue, this goddess, because as a kid in Mexico City, I saw this huge, it's a monolith, it's made of solid granite, it's huge, and it's very frightening, but it's also very appealing. I show her as a contemporary woman with the symbolic new life. Todos danos gracias a la Madre Tierra. Let's touch Mother Earth and thank her. Come on And thank you, and I'd like to thank Kathy Gallegos, because this is a wonderful community gallery. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you. So these are the art pieces that we have in the show, and I want you to meet our first spokeswoman and our educator and our friend Irene Cervantes.
Thank you, Diana, for inviting me to speak tonight.
I invited Susana Bautista. Susana is an art historian and an art commissioner for the Pasadena City, and a curator. And thanks to Kathy. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Kathy.
I want to thank Linda Ariola and Alexander Suriano. Where's Alex? These are the first artists that I asked to be in the show in the very, very beginning stages, and Linda was the very first. Thank you for supporting me.
I was actually very moved by that because, first of all, I had no idea I was the first one. And secondly, the theme that I'm revealing now was not something that I'm particularly drawn to, but the qualities that I find and honor in the female are some of the qualities actually I honor in Viviana as a person. She's got this great energy about her. She's at a stage in her life that I find women to be very dynamic and very creative. And it was a great opportunity for me to work with her.
I've known Viviana for many years, and as a fellow artist, and from years ago, a fellow student over at Pasadena City College. And she really was, to me, is and always will be one of, a goddess to me.
I was actually excited about it because I'd been working on the subject matter for quite a while, and I knew she had a lot of interest in it. And I wasn't really sure at the time that she was actually going to pull it off. It sounded pretty complicated, and she had a big plan for the whole deal when she told me about it, and she actually pulled it off. I mean, the whole thing better than I expected. So it came out pretty well, and no, I was pretty excited about the whole deal from beginning to end, but always amazed that it was as successful as it turned out to be.